Thank you. So this waiting period is stricken, and it just concerns me that this is completely out of alignment with other prescribers. For example, when a medical student graduates from medical school after 4 years of undergraduate training and a 4-year medical school degree, they must wait 1 year to begin prescribing any drug, not just controlled substances, any drug. The other stipulation, the other requirement for a physician is that they must pass Step 1, Step 2, and Step 3 of the National Licensure Examination in order to prescribe any medication. This is out of alignment with what we are doing here for the APRNs. This gives, the way I read it, this gives APRNs the authority to prescribe before a physician would be able to prescribe. I just have grave concerns about this. If we are looking to level the playing field and make sure that our prescribers are very qualified, I think that everyone should have the same waiting period and they should have the same exam. They should need to pass the same exam showing that they are qualified to prescribe medicine and furthermore to practice independently, because this is what the nurses are doing. The Kappa CS simply lifts the ability for, or the requirement for the nurses to prescribe controlled substances under the supervision or in collaboration, really, with a physician. That collaborative agreement is critically important for the patient-centered care and to be able to work together. Nurses, APRNs, advanced practice nurses, under a Kappa NS, after they fulfill their 4-year agreement, collaborative agreement to prescribe non-controlled substance, that's what NS stands for, may practice independently already. They have the ability to practice independently. The only thing that the Kappa CS does is creates a collaborative agreement to prescribe controlled substances. So the only thing that we are doing by passing this bill is increasing controlled substances. That's it. That's what CS stands for. I do have an amendment that I wanted to call, and what this does is reinstates the 1-year waiting period, and it requires that everyone take the same licensure examination to show that they're qualified. I think that this would give everyone assurance. Unfortunately, the amendment was drafted with language that I didn't necessarily want to include that expands the Kappa CS to 8 years, because I feel that if an individual APRN can pass the Step 1, Step 2, Step 3 to show that they're qualified, that we are leveling the playing field in essence. So I think what I would like to do, Mr. Speaker, is ask to suspend the rules to hear House Floor Amendment 1, and then if we are in agreement that this is a good idea, that everyone should play by the same level, on the same level playing field, and show that you're qualified, that I would be happy to work in the Senate to remove the 8-year Kappa CS, which is part of this amendment. Does that make sense?
Lady from Kenton, I don't believe you need a suspension of the rules to act on House Floor Amendment 1. So it would just simply be a motion that you would place before the body.
Okay, so may I ask the clerk then to report House Floor Amendment 4?
House Floor Amendment 4 will require a suspension of the rules.
Well, that's...
House Floor Amendment 1 would not.
I'm more interested in calling House Floor Amendment 4, so okay. I would need to ask for a suspension of the rules. My apologies.
Motion from the lady from Kenton is for suspension of the rules to hear and act upon House Floor Amendment 4 that was filed today. That amendment has been pushed to your bill books. Motion is not debatable. Requires a constitutional majority of 51. Roll call machine is open for your vote. Those in favor of a suspension of the rules, vote aye. Clerk will take the roll. Being 25 members voting aye, falls short of the 51 vote threshold. Lady from Kenton, the motion to suspend the rules fails. However, House Floor Amendments 1, 2, and 3 remain in order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was just handed the corrected amendment. Is it possible for me to file this and suspend the rules? And it does exactly what I described, less the 8-year Kappa CS. It would just revert back to the 4-year.
It would be in order for you to file the amendment currently. It'll take some moments to push that to the bill book, so we will continue debate on the issue while that is in process.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If I may just speak on the bill.
Yes, ma'am.
And I appreciate all of the comments that have been made here this morning, and I completely agree that APRNs are extremely necessary. We have seen the issue of our healthcare worker shortage really highlighted during COVID, but even before that, we have had a true shortage of healthcare workers. And I still submit that working together is always going to be in the best interest of our patients. The gentleman from Jefferson was correct that physicians do have enough work to go around. And that's why it's important to continue working together. We also do have a prescribing problem. We've had a worse prescribing problem. It is improving. We have made huge headway on putting resources in place and understanding that the overprescribing of opioids really contributed to the problem. And I think that it's important to continue having these conversations. We do have a shortage of physicians, and especially primary care physicians, and I don't see how this is going to help this problem. I don't know why anyone would go to medical school, do a 4-year residency, and be in direct competition with someone who has not nearly the training. So, you know, I do think that this will exacerbate the physician shortage for primary care. The argument has been made that the collaborative agreement doesn't work, and we have offered, I have offered, and in fact one of my amendments, which I won't call because I know it won't pass, would strengthen the collaborative agreement. So we have offered to fix the problem that has been brought up. No one is interested in having that conversation. I have had no conversations. None of the APRNs have come to meet with me through this process. Another argument that I've heard recently is that if we pass this, that all of the nurses, the thousands of nurses that left the state, will come back to Kentucky, which concerns me because isn't it a red flag that they're coming back specifically to prescribe controlled substances? And I understand that not all controlled substances are opioids. I think that there are probably ways to carve out what we allow prescribing, and the nurses would have to get their DEA license for some of the supplies and so forth. There are ways to carve that out, but we're not doing that. We are including everything. So, these are just a couple of my concerns. I have filed the amendment, the corrected amendment, which leaves in the collaborative agreement for 4 years only and reinstates the 1-year waiting period to align with other prescribers, and it requires that APRNs would have to pass the same exam that other prescribers pass to prescribe any drugs. So, Mr. Speaker, I ask to suspend the rules to hear House Floor Amendment 5.
Motion of the lady from Kenton 64 is for suspension of the rules for the purpose of allowing Floor Amendment 5, which has been pushed to your bill books, to be called and acted upon. Motion is non-debatable. It requires a constitutional majority of 51. Roll call is open for your vote. All members voted. Clerk will take the roll. Being 21 members voting aye, fails to meet the threshold of 51. Motion to suspend the rules fails. Lady from Kenton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate your indulgence, and I appreciate the conversation. I hope that we'll think about some of these things moving forward and just make sure that we are leveling the playing field for all prescribers. Thank you.